Hi, this is Major John Madden, and I'm smiling for lots of reasons. The most immediate reason is that I'm sitting behind the Hampton Inn in Victoria, Mexico, where I have been for all of 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, after so many years of wanting and longing to move to Mexico, and I'm here. And I'm smiling because the people at the Hampton Inn have been gorgeously supportive of me and my now 2 dogs, having adopted a puppy on my first day in Mexico on the 13th of March. They've been so incredibly supportive of us. And it's the Hampton Inn has been a magical place for us, including that as I was sitting here just now, back where my car was parked for a week until yesterday, when a magical Mexican mechanic, and there's my dog Magic, by the way, who appeared magically in my life just a little over a year ago. Joshua, his mechanic, just towed my car away, or drove my car away yesterday after being able to get it started, and it's off in his shop, and tonight we are staying as guests for the second night. We stayed here about 3 weeks ago because I had recently gotten my Social Security check, and we're staying here tonight because I got my Social Security check yesterday. So I was able to be in the hotel while my car is off at Joshua's place. And as I was organizing my thoughts here about how I had been washed clean in my 16 years of Asheville of so much of my terrible history, I was organizing my thoughts about that and about the role that BJ Harden-Jones played in that story. I'm sitting here thinking about all that, and the sprinklers turned on. Boom. Washing the grass clean and allowing the grass to grow beautiful and new. I moved to Asheville, North Carolina in 2004, desperately needing to reinvent myself. After, at that point, it had been about 15 years that I had been believing I had, first they told me by clinical depression and then later bipolar disorder, wrongly, incorrectly, because in my early 40s in Cincinnati, Ohio, I had a kind of a perfect storm of things go wrong in my life, or things that I had thought were the core of my life had gone kind of belly up. After a kind of spectacular management consulting career, I had moved to Cincinnati to be by my son, who was in his teen years then, and I could not deny anymore that he needed my presence on a more regular basis in his high school years. So I gave up a really great job with AT&T, at that point the largest company in the world, and a magical place to do my field of organization development. Left all that to move to Cincinnati. But being in Cincinnati did not make me happier. Saying goodbye to my son twice a week instead of once a month just shoved in my face the fact that he wasn't living with me and hadn't for most of his childhood. And the job that I took in Cincinnati was, I'll have to document it better elsewhere. I have in a couple of recent TikTok videos about why that went so far south for the power company in Cincinnati. So I lost my job after being a rock star, even at that power company. So, and my sex abuse memories came back because in my early 40s, I lost some of my youthful energy that kept me going. I didn't have all the supports around me that I had in Chicago. So my sex abuse memories finally surfaced and blew me out, and I was a mess. I was a mess. And if the right person had been around, if Stanislav Grof, who wrote the book The Stormy Search for Self, had been there, because he says in that book that can be a magical time, because the stuff that you thought was who you really are is not the deepest stuff. The real work of human life is to remember who you are, and that's one with everything. If somebody like that had been around at that point in Cincinnati in my early 40s, I could have had the spiritual breakthrough then, but no. There wasn't anybody like that around. They took me to the doctors, who took me to the psychiatrists, who know like nothing about trauma. They have one big hammer in their toolbox, which is to diagnose and prescribe, and they did that for me, to me. And for 30 years, I took their awful, wretched drugs and did not have the energy to fight back after they had done. One of the most violent things you can do to a person is to tell them that there's something wrong with them. I love the line, the only thing that's wrong with me is that I think there's something wrong with me, and they convinced me that it was. So it was a terrible 30 years, and in '04 I was as close to suicide as I ever had been, and I took the advice I had gotten from my son a year before when I was suicidal. Dad, reinvent yourself. Go someplace you've never been, do work you've never done, go somewhere where there's nobody you know, and there only was one person I knew in Cincinnati, and reinvent yourself. So I tried damn hard to do that by moving to Asheville, and almost didn't make it. In my first 10 days there, I came incredibly close to suicide, and I still ended up spending 15 years there in the throes of that awful belief system. But Asheville is a place for getting over your old belief systems. There's a very popular bumper sticker there. Don't believe everything you think. How powerful is that? And in my last 3 years of roaming the mountains, I've realized the brain is just a computer. It doesn't do creative thinking, and who we really are is our soul, is our oneness with God. It's so much bigger than the brain and bigger than the body. The body also is a tool we use for our learning. Well, in Asheville, I was living downtown my first 3 years there. I lived in a pretty enchanted boarding house, and I would walk by the spectacular Malaprops bookstore. Wonderful, wonderful independent bookstore in Asheville. And there would be a poster in the window with a woman, beautiful blonde woman, Byron Katie, who I knew like nothing about. But I learned about her because in Asheville there was a woman named BJ Harden-Jones who was teaching the work. That's what Byron Katie called her work. And Byron has a story real similar to mine, where desperate, having given up hope for getting her life to come around, she laid down one night ready to give up, ready perhaps considering ending her life. And something snapped and she woke up, and the next day she was great. Very similar story to Eckhart Tolle, and that's my story too. That at the very end, I'd just been hospitalized twice in 2 months. I was so desperate. I was sure that I was going to kill myself, and I gave up and turned my life over. And on June 26th of 2019, I woke up like Byron Katie and Eckhart Tolle. Well, in the work, Byron Katie teaches, it's got 4 principles, all of which, like the Course in Miracles, which I had studied very intensively earlier, which begins by taking apart all your projections. I don't understand the meaning of anything I see. Byron Katie says, is it true? You look at what's tormenting you, and the first question is it true? Second question is, do I know that it's true? Third is, what does it do to me believing it? And then what would it look like if I didn't believe it? I learned that stuff from BJ. Harden-Jones, and I'm running out of voice and time. Okay.